Welcome back, dear listener, and if you're new here, then welcome for the very first time to this quiet little corner of the internet, where history doesn't shout, it whispers. Here we wander through the strange, the forgotten, the uncomfortable, and the oddly familiar parts of the past, all from the comfort of your bed, your couch, or wherever you've chosen to let the day fade out. So, get comfortable, settle in, and let your thoughts drift. Because tonight, like every night, we're trading the chaos of now for the stories of then. And if these slow, sleepy journeys through history help you relax, unwind, or just wonder a little more about the world, don't forget to leave a like, maybe subscribe, and come along for the next story. There's always more where that came from. You are immortal. That's already your first mistake. You didn't choose this existence. No one asked for your consent before weaving your fragile thread into the tapestry of creation. Yet here you are, flesh and bone, heart and breath, temporary, vulnerable, desperately alive in a world where immortals walk. The gods are real, not distant abstractions painted on temple ceilings or whispered about by wild-eyed prophets. No. They are as real as the earth beneath your feet, as tangible as the bread you break, as present as your own reflection. And worse, they're interested in you, not because you're special, not because you're heroic or blessed or chosen, just because they're bored. Imagine living forever, centuries rolling into millennia like pebbles down an endless shore. Imagine power without limits, beauty without decay, existence without end. What would you do to pass the time? The gods have chosen their entertainment. You. You walk through olive groves and whisper prayers, hoping they'll listen. The bitter irony is that they always are. When Zeus watches you from his throne on cloud-crowned Olympus, he sees an ant building a hill. When Aphrodite brushes against your dreams, she's merely amusing herself with your desperate longings. When Apollo shoots his golden arrows of plague into your city, he's simply testing his aim. One glance from a god could bless your crops with bounty unseen for generations, or turn you into a tree, roots gripping the soil where your feet once stood, your screams muffled by bark and leaf. Their whims are laws that nature itself must obey. Their jealousies are storms that shatter ships and drown sailors. Their lust is the reason children are born with destiny braided into their hair. Your life is shaped by stories. You tell them. To explain thunder, war, love, sickness. Stories about why seasons change, why women suffer in childbirth, why men go mad with jealousy. Stories that give meaning to suffering, purpose to chaos. Stories that make the unbearable weight of existence slightly easier to bear. But sometimes the stories eat the people in them. Sometimes you become a cautionary tale, a tragic myth, a whispered warning. Flesh transfigured into metaphor. Your suffering, transformed into entertainment for generations, yet unborn. Tonight, you'll meet 4 such souls. They never asked to be remembered, never sought immortality through infamy. They're not heroes with mighty swords or cunning wits. Just ordinary mortals, who wandered into divine crossfire, who reached too high, saw too much, spoke too cleverly, existed too beautifully. Who made the gods notice them, the most dangerous thing a mortal can do? Their names echo through history, not because they conquered nations or slew monsters, but because they lost everything in ways so spectacularly, perfectly tragic that the gods themselves could not have scripted better entertainment. So close your eyes, settle in. Let the weight of your mortal body sink into the earth that will one day reclaim it. Listen to these tales of those who crossed invisible lines and paid eternal prices, and try not to anger any deities while you dream. Chapter 1. Sisyphus, the Clever One. You are Sisyphus, king of Ephyra, and you are entirely too clever for your own good. You wake each morning in your palace of white stone where servants dress you in purple-hemmed chitons and place the golden circlet of kingship upon your brow. The wine in your cup is the color of sunset, the bread on your table still warm from the ovens. Life, you think, is good, but you are restless. That mind of yours, quick as a fox, sharp as a blade, it never stops turning. You lie awake at night while your queen sleeps beside you, watching shadow patterns on the ceiling and thinking of ways to outwit fate itself. Intelligence is your blessing, and your curse. You notice things others miss, like how the river god Asopus searches frantically for his daughter, like how Zeus has been absent from Olympus more often lately, like how these two facts might be connected. When you catch sight of the king of gods leading a young river nymph into a secluded grove, you understand immediately what's happening. Zeus, married to jealous Hera, is having another affair. Information is power, and power is something you understand intimately. So when Asopus comes to you, desperate and wild with grief for his missing daughter, you make a calculation. I may have seen something, you tell him, voice casual, eyes sharp, but knowledge has its price. Asopus promises you an eternal spring for your city, water that never runs dry, even in the harshest summer, clean, sweet water for your people. Forever, a kingly gift. You smile and tell him everything. What you don't see is Hermes, watching from the shadows, his winged sandals silent on the marble floor, his eyes cold as he witnesses your betrayal of his father. That night, as Zeus returns to Mount Olympus, still adjusting his thunderbolt belt and smoothing his beard, Hermes whispers in his ear, tells him how the mortal king Sisyphus sold divine secrets for a magical spring. Zeus's rage is terrible. Lightning splits the sky above your city. Thunder makes your palace tremble. But no bolt strikes you down. No divine punishment manifests. And that makes you nervous. Days pass. Then weeks. You grow jumpy, starting at shadows, sleeping poorly. But nothing happens. Perhaps you think Zeus has forgotten, or forgiven, or deemed you too insignificant for his wrath. You're wrong on all counts. When Thanatos comes for you, sent by Zeus himself, you're almost relieved. Death, at least, is honest. Final. No more waiting for lightning that never falls. But as the winged deity of death approaches your throne, that clever mind of yours starts spinning again. You notice how Thanatos carries his chains, the very bonds meant to bind your soul for the journey to the underworld. You notice how he holds them, a little carelessly, a little proudly. Those are magnificent chains, you say, voice filled with awe. Truly worthy of a god. I've never seen craftsmanship like that. Thanatos preens slightly. Gods, even minor ones, are susceptible to flattery. How do they work, you ask, stepping closer, eyes wide with apparent fascination. Surely they must be complicated, designed to hold even the most powerful souls. They're quite simple, actually, Thanatos says, beginning to demonstrate. You watch carefully as he explains the locking mechanism, and when he's distracted by his own explanation, you move, quick as thought, nimble as doubt. You grab the chains and snap them around Thanatos himself. The click of the lock echoes in your throne room like destiny's door closing. Thanatos struggles, eyes wide with shock, then narrow with fury. But the chains are designed by Hephaestus himself, meant to bind even immortal essence. The god of death is trapped, and no one dies. Not in your city, not in your kingdom, not anywhere in the world. For days, then weeks, then months, no one crosses. The river Styx. No shades arrive in Hades' gloomy realm. The natural order is disrupted, and in the world above the consequences are strange. Old men who should have expired from age wake up each morning, creaking and groaning, but stubbornly alive. Warriors run through with spears on battlefields, stare in confusion at the weapons protruding from their chests, blood flowing, but life refusing to depart. Farmers crushed under fallen carts lie in agony that never ends. Death has been chained, and the world doesn't know how to continue without it. In the underworld, Hades grows concerned. The balance between life and death is sacred, necessary. The rivers of the underworld run too shallow. The fields of asphodel stand empty of new arrivals. Something is very wrong. When Hades discovers what you've done, his cold rage is quieter than his brother Zeus's, but no less terrible. He sends Ares, god of war, to free Thanatos and drag you, still very much alive, down to the underworld. Ares is not subtle. He doesn't trick or bargain. He simply kicks down your palace door, grabs you by the throat, and drags you struggling and protesting through the earth itself, down into the land of the dead. Standing before Hades' obsidian throne, you try to smile. Try to think of some clever words, some bargain, some trick, but Hades merely gestures and you find yourself in the fields of punishment, where the worst offenders against divine law suffer eternal torments. For disrupting the sacred boundary between life and death, Hades pronounces, voice like stones grinding together, you will remain here forever. But even here, facing eternal punishment, that mind of yours keeps turning. You bow your head, appear to accept your fate, and then, when Hades has returned to his duties, you approach Persephone, his queen. She is beautiful in a way that makes your eyes water. Half life, half death, flowers growing from her midnight hair, pomegranate. Stains on her pale fingers. Queen of the underworld, you say, voice humble, but not servile. I have a small request. She raises an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. The damned do not usually make requests. My wife above, you continue, did not perform the proper funeral rites for my body. I lie unburied, without coin for the ferryman. This is distressing to me. Not true, of course. Your body is perfectly fine, sitting untenanted in the world above, while your soul stands here in Hades' realm. But Persephone doesn't know that. Allow me to return, just for 3 days, you plead, just long enough to ensure proper burial. Then I will return voluntarily to accept my punishment. Persephone studies you. She knows you are clever, known for tricks. But she also understands the importance of proper funeral rites. Without them, souls wander restlessly. It's a reasonable request. 3 days, she agrees finally. No more. You bow deeply, hiding your smile. No more, you echo, and just like that, you're back in the world of the living, back in your body, back in your palace with its white stones and purple curtains and golden wine. Your queen rushes to embrace you, tears in her eyes. They said you were taken to the underworld itself. I was, you tell her, but I came back. You have no intention of returning to Hades, no intention of submitting to punishment. You've outsmarted death twice now, once by chaining Thanatos, once by tricking Persephone. You're rather proud of yourself. Days pass, then weeks, then years. You grow old in your palace by the sea. Your hair turns white, your hands develop spots, your joints ache in the rain. But you're alive. You've beaten the gods at their own game, or so you think. But the gods are patient, immortal. They can wait, and they do. Until you die of old age, your clever mind finally stilled by natural causes, your body giving out after decades of defying. Divine will, this time, when you arrive in the underworld, all 3 judges of the dead are waiting for you. Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus look at you not with anger, but with something worse, disappointed amusement. Sisyphus, says Minos, twice you have cheated death. Twice you have disrupted the order of the cosmos. Twice you have mocked the gods themselves. You try to speak, to bargain, to explain, but your voice makes no sound here. Your clever words have finally run out. For such offenses, continues Rhadamanthus, an ordinary punishment would not suffice. Something special, agrees Aeacus, is required. And that's when you see it. The boulder, enormous, gray, perfectly round. It sits at the bottom of a hill, so steep it's almost a mountain, its slope disappearing into mist above. Your punishment is simple, says Minos. Push the boulder to the top of the hill. You almost laugh with relief. Physical labor? For a king? Undignified, certainly, but hardly the eternal torment you'd feared. One good push, one difficult climb, and then what? Freedom? Redemption? And when you reach the top, You ask, your voice suddenly working again. The three judges exchange glances. That, says Rhadamanthus with a thin smile, is for you to discover. So you begin. You put your shoulder to the boulder, feel its immense weight, and push. It moves, barely. You push harder, your feet slip on the gravel, your muscles strain, the dead sweat pours down your face. Inch by inch, foot by foot, you force the massive stone up the slope. Your back burns, your hands bleed, your breath comes in ragged gasps, but you're making progress. The boulder rolls upward, slowly but surely. You can see the hill's summit now, shrouded in mist, but definitely there. Attainable. You just need to keep pushing. Hours pass, or days. Time means nothing here. You push and strain and groan and inch ever upward. Finally, after what feels like eternity compressed into a single burning moment of effort, you're nearly there. The summit is just a few feet away. The boulder balances precariously on the steep slope. One more good push, and then it happens. The boulder shifts slightly, trembles, and begins to roll, not upward, downward, past you, gathering speed, bouncing off the hillside, faster and faster, undoing all your work in seconds, until it comes to rest at the exact spot where you began. You stand there, stunned, watching dust settle around the perfectly round stone. And then you understand this is your punishment, not merely to push a boulder up a hill, but to push it up a hill knowing it will always roll back down, to expend enormous effort for zero result, to hope every time that this attempt will be different, knowing in your heart it never will be. The gods have finally outsmarted the trickster. They've crafted a punishment that matches your crime. You who thought yourself clever enough to cheat death will spend eternity in pointless labor that can never be completed. So you walk back down the hill. You place your bleeding hands against the cool stone, and you begin again. Push, strain, sweat, groan. Watch it roll back down, walk down, begin again. For thousands of years, you've repeated this cycle. The boulder never changes size or weight. The hill never gets less steep. Your strength never fails entirely. The gods wouldn't want you to be unable to continue, after all. Scholars above debate the meaning of your punishment. Is it a metaphor for the human condition? A warning against pride? A demonstration of divine cruelty? You don't care about metaphors. You care about the weight against your shoulder, the gravel beneath your feet, the summit that never gets closer no matter how hard you strain. Sometimes visitors come to watch, heroes on quests, gods slumming. Among the damned, new arrivals to the underworld being given the tour. They stare, they whisper, sometimes they laugh. There's Sisyphus, they say, the cleverest man who ever lived. You ignore them, you have work to do. Endless, pointless work. Push, strain, roll back, begin again. Some say you're the embodiment of absurdity, the thinking man condemned to thoughtless labor. Some say you should despair, but there's something they don't understand. These watchers, these judges, even the gods themselves. In the moment when you reach the summit, in that fraction of a second before the boulder begins to roll back down, there's a kind of victory, a completion, a purpose fulfilled. It never lasts, but it exists. And so you push, again and again and again, because hope dies last, even in Hades, even for you, Sisyphus, the too clever king with bloody hands and a boulder. That will never stay put. You push, and sometimes you smile. Chapter 2. Icarus, the Dreamer. You are Icarus, and you've never known freedom. Your earliest memories are of walls. Stone walls, high and windowless, surrounding the workshop where your father Daedalus, brilliant inventor, unparalleled architect, creates his wonders. This labyrinth on Crete is both your home and your prison, its twisted passages designed by your father's own genius to hold the monstrous Minotaur, and as an unintended consequence, to hold you both as well. King Minos keeps you here, keeps your father's brilliant mind captive, Available only for royal commissions. You've never seen the sea, though you can smell its salt on the air that filters through hidden vents. You've never climbed a mountain, though you can see their distant peaks from the one high window your father managed to include in his design. Your world is limited to stone corridors, the central courtyard, and your father's workshop, with its scattered tools, half-finished inventions, and the perpetual dust of creation. You help him work, of course. You're nearly a man now, 16 summers old, with nimble fingers and a quick mind. Not as brilliant as his legendary intellect, but clever enough to be useful. You hand him tools, hold pieces in place while he attaches them, sweep up the debris of abandoned projects. But while he works, you dream. At night, you lie on your sleeping pallet and imagine what it would be like to walk on a beach, waves lapping at your ankles, to stand on a mountaintop, wind in your hair, to move through a crowded marketplace, surrounded by strangers, to be free. Sometimes you catch your father watching you with sad eyes. He knows what his genius has cost you. A normal childhood, friends, experiences, but he never speaks of it. What would be the point? The labyrinth holds you both as surely as if you were chained, until the day he looks up from his workbench, eyes gleaming with something you've never seen before. Hope. I have an idea, he says, voice barely above a whisper, though no one else is present. A way out. You've learned to be cautious with hope. It's a fragile thing in a place like this. The king's guards watch every entrance, you remind him. Yes, he agrees, his fingers already sketching on a scrap of parchment. They watch the doors, the gates, the passages, but they don't watch the sky. And that's when you see what he's drawing: wings, not the stiff artificial wings of his earlier mechanical birds that never quite achieved true flight. These are different, organic, flexible, designed to catch the air and hold it, to bend without breaking. We can't sprout wings, Father, you say, though you're already intrigued, leaning closer to see the design. No, he agrees, but we can. Build them, wear them, fly away from this place. For weeks, you work in secret. Your father sends requests to the king. Certain types of wood, particular tools, lengths of leather, seemingly random supplies that make sense only when you see how they come together in his design. Most crucially, he asks for wax and feathers, the wax from the palace's finest beeswax candles, the feathers from the king's prize geese and falcons. For a mechanical bird, he explains when questioned, a gift for the king's daughter, who admires such things. No such gift is planned, of course, but the princess has received enough of Daedalus's ingenious toys over the years that no one questions this explanation. In the deepest night, when even the guards are drowsy at their posts, you and your father work. The frame of each wing is crafted from the lightest, strongest wood available, olive branches, soaked and bent to perfect curves, then dried in position. Leather straps create a harness to bind the wings to arms and back. And onto this framework, you painstakingly attach hundreds, thousands of feathers. The smaller downy feathers go first, creating a soft underlayer. Then the longer flight feathers, each one carefully positioned to catch the air just so. All held in place with the finest beeswax, melted to perfect consistency in a small brazier kept low enough not to create visible smoke. Your fingers ache from the delicate work. Your back hunches from bending over the workbench night after night. But you don't complain. This pain has purpose. This pain leads to sky. Finally, after months of secret labor, the wings are complete. 4 of them, a pair for you, a pair for your father. They're beautiful, nearly indistinguishable from the wings of giant birds when spread wide. Your father tests each set meticulously, checking and double-checking the strength of every joint, the security of every feather. He makes you practice putting them on and taking them off until you can do it in darkness by feel alone. He teaches you how they'll work, how to catch thermal updrafts, how to bank and turn, how to glide. The most important thing, he tells you repeatedly, is to maintain proper altitude. Too low, and the sea spray will soak the feathers, making them too heavy to hold you aloft. Too high, he hesitates, and you prompt him. Too high? Too high, and the sun's heat will melt the wax. The feathers will come loose, the wings will fail. You nod seriously, committing his warning to memory. Not too low, not too high. The middle path, safety, but secretly your heart races at the thought of height, of climbing through the air, up and up, seeing the world spread out below like one of your father's maps come to life. How high could you go? How far could you see? The night of your escape arrives, chosen carefully for its moonless dark, for winds favorable to eastward flight, for the rotation of guards that puts the least attentive men on duty. You stand with your father on the labyrinth's highest accessible point, a flat roof area where he sometimes conducts astronomical observations for the king. The wings are strapped to your back, surprisingly light despite their size. They make soft rustling sounds in the night breeze, as if already eager for flight. Remember, your father says, voice taut with anxiety, follow me exactly. Stay at my altitude. Don't take risks. You nod, but your eyes are already on the stars, brilliant in the dark sky above. So many of them, so distant, so free. Icarus, he says sharply. This is not a game. This is survival. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise, Father, you say. And you mean it in this moment. You have no wish to die. After all, he embraces. You awkwardly, the wings making full contact impossible. Then he turns, spreads his arms, and steps off the roof into nothingness. For a terrible moment, he drops like a stone. Your heart lurches. Then the wings catch air, spread wide, and he's flying, actually, flying, his form a dark silhouette against the star-scattered sky. He circles back, hovers as best he can. Come, he calls softly, just like we practiced. You take a deep breath, spread your arms, step off the edge. The first sensation is falling, pure and terrifying. Wind rushes past your ears. Your stomach seems to float somewhere above you. The foda ground hurries up to meet you. Then you remember to move your arms, to catch the air rather than slice through it. The wings spread, grab hold of invisible currents. Slow your descent, and suddenly, impossibly, you're not falling anymore. You're flying. The sensation is like nothing you've ever imagined. Better than your dreams, better than your father's descriptions. The wind supports you, carries you, becomes an extension of your will. With the slightest shift of your body, you can rise, fall, turn. You are weightless, boundless, free. A laugh bubbles up from deep in your chest. Quick, startled, joyous. You're flying. You're flying. Your father gestures frantically for silence, pointing toward the distant guard posts. Right? Escape first. Celebration later. You follow him as he banks eastward toward the sea. The labyrinth recedes behind you, its monstrous shape already seeming smaller, less significant. Ahead lies the dark expanse of the Mediterranean, its surface glittering with reflected starlight. Flying is easier than you expected. Your body seems to understand intuitively what to do, how to catch the night breezes, how to maintain balance. The wings feel like they've always been part of you, responsive to your every subtle movement. Soon you're over open water, the coastline of Crete falling behind. Your father maintains a steady altitude, not too high, not too low, just as he instructed. He glances back frequently to ensure you're following, his expression a mixture of worry and elation, visible even in the darkness. And you do follow at first. You fly in his wake, matching his pace, staying close. But as the night wears on and no pursuit materializes from Crete, as the rhythm of flight becomes comfortable and routine, your thoughts begin to wander. The stars above seem brighter now that you're closer to them. The moon, just a sliver on the horizon, casts a silver path across the waves, and in the east, the first hint of dawn touches the sky. A faint lightning, a promise of gold to come. You've never seen a sunrise from above, never seen its light spread across an uninterrupted horizon. On Crete, the mountains always cut off part of the view. The labyrinth walls frame the rest. But here, in open sky, you could see it all. the complete majesty of Apollo's daily journey beginning anew, if you were higher. Your father is far ahead now, focused on maintaining course toward the distant mainland, toward Athens and Sanctuary. He doesn't notice as you slowly, experimentally, begin to climb. The air feels different up here, thinner, cooler. The wings must work harder to support you, but they hold. They carry you upward in widening spirals, each turn lifting you further from the sea's dark surface. Below, your father becomes a small shape, beetle-like with his wings spread wide. Above, the stars fade as the sky lightens further, and ahead, at the very edge of the world, a sliver of blinding gold appears, the sun. It's beautiful beyond words, pure light spilling over the curve of the earth, igniting the scattered clouds from beneath, transforming the entire eastern sky into a canvas of impossible colors, gold and saffron and rose, and colors you have no names for. You climb higher, wanting to see more, to be part of this daily miracle previously hidden from you. The thin air makes you light-headed, euphoric. The cold nips at your face, but you don't care. Up here, between the fading stars and the waking world, you feel truly alive for the first time. Your father's warning seems distant now, unimportant. What does it matter if you fly high for just a little while, just long enough to greet the sun properly, just long enough to feel its warmth on your face after 16 years of stone walls and shadows? The light grows stronger, brighter, as Apollo's chariot crests the horizon. It bathes your face, your outstretched arms, your wings in golden radiance. The warmth is exquisite after the night's chill, like being embraced by life itself. You close your eyes for just a moment, face turned toward the light, arms spread wide, drinking in the sensation. This, you think, is what the gods must feel. This borderless joy, this perfect freedom. The first feather that falls isn't even noticeable in your state of ecstasy, nor the second, nor the 10th. But then you feel a change in the wing's response, a sluggishness, a lack of lift. You open your eyes, turn your head to look. The wax is melting. It drips from the wooden frame in the thick golden tears, releasing feathers as it liquefies. They drift away in the high-altitude winds, first a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The beautiful, perfect wings your father crafted with such care are disintegrating in the sun's heat, exactly as he warned they would. Panic seizes you. You try to turn, to dive back toward safer altitudes. But the wings no longer respond properly. Too many feathers gone, too much wax melted away, the frame itself beginning to warp in the heat, and then you're no longer flying, you're falling. The wind no longer supports you. It tears at you, whistles past your ears, drowns out your own terrified screams. The remnants of the wings flap uselessly, more hindrance than help now. The sea rushes up to meet you, no longer a distant glittering plain, but a very real, very solid surface, approaching at devastating speed. In your last moments, you see your father. He's spotted your fall and is flying toward you, his face a mask of horror and despair, but he's too far, too slow. The distance between you grows rather than shrinks as gravity pulls you downward far faster than his wings can carry him upward. You try to call out to him, to apologize, to tell him it's not his fault, that the wings worked perfectly, that you broke your promise, that the sun was just too beautiful to resist, but the wind steals your words, just as it's stolen the feathers from your wings. The impact, when it comes, is both softer and harder than you expected. Water isn't stone, but at this speed, it might as well be. Pain explodes through every part of you, brief but absolute. Then darkness. Your father circles the spot where you fell for hours until his own wings begin to fail, and he must continue, or join you in the depths. He flies on to Athens with half his heart torn away, the other half drowned with his son, who flew too close to the sun. Later, much later, when sailors find your body washed up on a rocky shore, they bury you with what? Honors they can provide for an unknown youth. They mark your grave with a simple stone, no name, no story. Just another victim of the sea's hunger, But your father speaks of you, in Athens, in Sicily, in every place where his restless grief carries him. He speaks of his brilliant, beautiful boy, who loved freedom too much, who reached too high, who, for a few glorious moments, touched the face of the sun itself, and so you become a story, a warning, a constellation in the night sky that your father searched until his own death. Icarus, the boy who flew. Icarus, the boy who fell. Icarus, the boy who, for one perfect moment, knew what it meant to be truly free. No god smites you, none curses. You! None even notices you, a brief, bright flicker of humanity reaching beyond its bounds. They didn't need to punish you, you did that all by yourself. Chapter 3. Medusa, the Cursed One. You are Medusa, and you were beautiful once. Not in the conventional way, perhaps. Not like the painted courtesans of Athens with their powdered faces and hennaed hands. Not like the aristocratic women of Sparta with their athletic grace and proud bearing. Your beauty was simpler, more natural, olive skin tanned by sun, hands calloused from work, eyes that reflected the changing colors of the Aegean. You were a daughter of the sea, born to aging parents in a small coastal village where everyone fished and farmed and prayed to the gods for good weather and full nets. Your life should have been ordinary. Marriage to a local boy, children playing in the surf, decades of small joys and mundane sorrows before joining your ancestors in Hades' realm. But the fates had other plans. You were 12 when the priestesses came through your village searching for new acolytes to serve in Athens' greatest temple. They tested all the young girls for signs of divine favor, asking questions, examining palm lines, casting bones. When your turn came, the eldest priestess held your face between her wrinkled hands and looked into your eyes for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then she smiled. "This one," she said, "she has been touched by the goddess." Your parents wept, from pride, from sorrow at losing you, from awe that their daughter had been chosen. You stood silent, stunned by the sudden veering of your life's path. The temple of Athena Parthenos in Athens was like nothing you could have imagined, vast, echoing, the marble so white it hurt your eyes on sunny days. The magnificent statue of the goddess towered 40 feet high, crafted of gold and ivory, her spear seeming to pierce the very heavens. You learned quickly what was expected of you, absolute purity, not just of body, but of thought, diligent study, of sacred texts, careful performance of rituals, perfect obedience to the older priestesses, devotion to Athena above all else, and you excelled. You had always been a quick learner, and now you applied that natural intelligence to your sacred duties. You memorized prayers faster than girls from educated families. You maintained the sacred flame without ever letting it gutter. You kept your eyes downcast when male supplicants entered the temple, never betraying with so much as a glance that you noticed their existence. By 16, you were known as the most dedicated of the younger priestesses. By 18, you were trusted with important rituals. By 20, there was talk of you someday becoming high priestess. Through it all, your beauty grew, not diminished by the simple white robes and unstyled hair required of Athena's servants, but somehow enhanced by their austerity. Your features matured from merely pretty to striking. Your movements gained grace from years of ritual dance. Your voice developed a musical quality from chanting sacred hymns. You didn't think about your appearance often. Vanity was discouraged. In the temple, mirrors rare and used only for practical purposes, but sometimes you'd catch a glimpse of yourself in a polished bronze vessel or the still surface of the sacred pool, and the face looking back would startle you. So different. From the village girl who arrived years ago, you didn't seek admiration, didn't invite attention. Your days were consumed with service to the goddess, your nights spent in dreamless sleep on your narrow pallet in the priestess's quarters. You were content in your devotion, proud to serve the virgin goddess of wisdom and righteous warfare. Until the day he came. It was spring, the season when Athens celebrated the Panathenæa, the great festival honoring the city's patron goddess. The temple was busier than usual, filled with supplicants bringing offerings, with children being blessed, with officials preparing for the procession. You were tending the sacred olive tree in the inner courtyard, a quiet task you cherished for the moments of solitude it provided. The tree was said to be the very one Athena had gifted the city during her contest with Poseidon, the gift that won her patronage of Athens. Its gnarled trunk and silver-green leaves were older than the temple itself. So absorbed were you in carefully pruning the dead branches that you didn't notice the approaching footsteps until their owner spoke. So, this is the famous olive tree. Impressive, for a vegetable. The voice was male, deep, resonant with power. You startled, nearly dropping your pruning knife, and turned to face the intruder. He stood taller than any man you'd ever seen, his shoulders broader, his presence somehow more substantial, as if he occupied more space in the world than his physical form suggested. His beard was dark with streaks of silver, like sea foam on night waters. His eyes were the color of the deepest ocean, shifting from green to blue to black, depending on how the light struck them. And he was looking at you, not at the sacred tree, at you. You lowered your gaze immediately, as priestesses were, trained to do in the presence of men. "My lord," you said, your voice carefully neutral, "this inner courtyard is forbidden to male visitors. If you require assistance from the temple, I can direct you to the public areas." He laughed, a sound like waves breaking against cliffs. "Forbidden? To me? I think not, little priestess." Something in his tone made you look up despite your training. There was an arrogance in his stance, a confidence that went beyond mortal. Pride, and suddenly you knew, Lord Poseidon, you whispered, sinking into a deep bow. "Forgive me, I did not recognize you." What was the sea god doing here in Athena's temple? The two deities had been rivals since Athens' founding, when the people chose Athena's gift of the olive tree over Poseidon's offering of a salt spring. They tolerated each other, as all Olympians must, but there was no love lost between them. "Rise," he commanded, and you obeyed instantly. One did not keep a god waiting. "What is your name, priestess?" "Medusa, my lord." "Medusa," he repeated, tasting the syllables like rare wine. "Guardian, protector, an interesting name for a servant of Athena." You said nothing, unsure what response he expected. His gaze traveled over you in a way that made your skin prickle with unease. No man had looked at you that way since you entered the temple service. "Do you know why I've come here, Medusa?" he asked, taking a step closer. You shook your head, fighting the urge to step back. He was a god. To show fear would be disrespectful. To show fear might anger him. And an angry god was the most dangerous force in creation. "I've come to see what Athena values so highly," he said, reaching out to touch the olive tree's bark. Then his eyes returned to you. "And I believe I've found something worth my interest." There was no mistaking his meaning, no pretending you didn't understand the hunger in his gaze. Terror bloomed in your chest, followed immediately by desperate calculation. The nearest entrance to the main temple was 30 paces away. There were other priestesses there, supplicants, guards at the outer doors, if you could reach them. "My lord," you said carefully, "I am sworn to Athena's service." I have taken vows of chastity that cannot be broken. His smile was not kind. Vows to a goddess who is absent, he said, gesturing around the empty courtyard. I, however, am very much present. You took a step toward the entrance. He matched, it easily blocking your path. Please, you said, hating the tremor in your voice. This is her sacred space. To defile it would be to invite her wrath. Let her be wrathful, Poseidon growled. Let her see that what she claims as hers can be taken, just as she took Athens from me. And you understood with sickening clarity. This wasn't about you at all. You were merely a tool, a means for one deity to wound another in their ancient rivalry. Your violation would be an insult to Athena, a reminder that even in her most sacred space, she could not protect what was hers. You ran. Not toward the temple entrance, he was blocking that path, but toward the far wall of the courtyard, where a smaller door led to the priestess's quarters. You were fast, made quicker by terror. For a moment you thought you might make it. Then the ground beneath your feet became wet, unstable. The flagstones transformed to mud that sucked at your sandals, slowing you, tripping you. You fell hard, the breath knocked from your lungs, and he was there, standing over you, his shadow engulfing yours. Athena chose you for your beauty, he said, kneeling beside your prone form. I choose you for your defiance. What happened next you have tried to scour from your memory, tried and failed, his weight crushing you into the mud. The smell of salt and seaweed overwhelming the familiar temple scents of incense and olive oil. The pain, the helplessness, the humiliation of being used as an object in a divine grudge match. Throughout it all, one thought circled in your mind like a desperate prayer. Athena will come. She will stop this. She will save me. She did not come. When Poseidon finally left, vanishing as gods do with no need for doors or paths, you lay where he had left you, bruised, bleeding, your white priestess robes torn and soiled. For how long you couldn't say. Time had fractured, become meaningless. Eventually you forced yourself to move, to stand on shaking legs, to stumble toward the small fountain in the courtyard center, where clean water bubbled eternally from, a bronze lion's mouth. You needed to wash, to cleanse yourself before anyone saw. Before Athena saw, the water was cool on your skin, shocking you back to full awareness. You scrubbed desperately at the mud, the blood, the invisible stain of the sea god's touch. But no amount of water could cleanse the violation. No amount of prayer could undo what had been done. You were no longer pure, no longer worthy to be Athena's priestess. Your vows were broken, your service tainted. What would happen to you now? Would you be cast out of the temple, sent back to your village in disgrace? Or would Athena show mercy, understanding that you had been powerless against a god's will? As these questions tormented you, the air in the courtyard changed, grew sharper, charged with energy that made the fine hairs on your arms stand up. You knew, before turning, who would be there. Athena stood by her olive tree, her form so radiant it was difficult to look at directly. Taller even than Poseidon had been, her gray eyes cold as winter stars, her golden armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. Beautiful and terrible, like a perfectly forged blade. You fell to your knees, head bowed, tears flowing freely now. My goddess, you whispered, forgive me. Forgive you? Her voice was not loud, but it resonated in your bones, in the stones beneath your knees, in the very air. You think this is about forgiveness? You looked up, confused by her tone. There was no compassion in her perfect face. No understanding, only a cold fury that made you shrink back in fear. You were violated in my temple, she said. My most sacred space defiled, my most favored priestess taken by my enemy. I didn't want, you began, but she cut you off with a gesture so sharp it felt like a physical blow. Do not speak. The Command froze the words in your throat. I know what occurred here. I know how my uncle forced himself upon you. What I do not know is why you were alone with him, why you engaged him in conversation, why you did not immediately alert the temple. Guards to an intruder in the inner sanctum? You stared at her in disbelief. Was she suggesting, could she possibly think, that you had somehow invited Poseidon's attention? That you were in some way complicit in your own violation? He was a god, you managed to say. There was nothing I could do to stop him. There is always something that can be done, Athena replied coldly. You could have called for help. You could have fought harder. You could have died rather than allow my temple to be desecrated. The injustice of her words struck you like a physical blow. You had devoted your life to her service, had been her perfect priestess, and now, when you most needed her protection, her compassion, she was blaming you for being overpowered by another deity. You weren't here, you said, voice barely above a whisper. You didn't come when I prayed to you, when I begged for your help. For a moment, something like uncertainty flickered across her divine countenance. Then her expression hardened again. I cannot be everywhere at once. Even gods have limitations. But that does not excuse what happened here. No, you agreed. A spark of anger finally igniting through your fear and shame. It doesn't excuse what Poseidon did. He should be the one facing your wrath, not me. Athena's eyes narrowed. You dare to instruct me on where to direct my anger? You, a mortal, presuming to understand divine justice? I understand injustice when I see it, you replied, surprising yourself with your boldness. Perhaps you had nothing left to lose. Perhaps the shock of betrayal by the goddess you had served so faithfully had broken something fundamental in your reverence. Poseidon violated me to insult you, and now you punish me instead of him. Where is the wisdom in that, goddess of wisdom? The temperature in the courtyard dropped so suddenly your breath fogged in the air. Athena's form seemed to grow, to loom, larger than the temple itself, her shadow stretching across the ground to envelop you in darkness. You speak of justice, she said, her voice like the grinding of great stones. Very well, let justice be done. Pain shot through you, white-hot, all-consuming, beginning at your scalp and racing down through every part of your body. You screamed, clutching at your head where the agony was most intense. Your hair, your long dark hair that you had kept modestly covered and simply dressed as befitted an Athena's priestess, began to move, to writhe, to change. Each strand thickened, hardened, transformed. Your fingers, still tangled in your locks, touched something cool and dry and scaly, something that moved on its own, independent of your will. Snakes. Your hair had become a nest of living, hissing snakes. The pain receded, leaving you gasping on your hands and knees. Around your face, the serpents hissed and snapped, some striking at your fingers when you instinctively reached up to touch your transformed tresses. Their bite was immediate, venomous, sending fresh waves of pain through your hand. What have you done to me? You moaned, staring up at Athena through a curtain of writhing reptiles. I have marked you, she said coldly, so that all will know you are no longer my priestess, no longer under my protection. Because I was attacked, because I couldn't fight off a god. Your voice broke on the last word. Because you were made. Unclean in my sacred space, she corrected, because you dared to question my judgment, because your beauty, which once served my glory, has now become a source of conflict and disorder. Then take my beauty, you pleaded. Make me plain, invisible, but don't make me a monster. A cold smile touched her perfect lips. Oh, but I am taking your beauty, Medusa. I am taking it now. Fresh pain bloomed in your face, your cheeks, your chin, your forehead. Your skin stretched and hardened, taking on a rougher texture. Your teeth lengthened, became sharp as daggers in your mouth. Your nails curved into claws. You screamed again, the sound no longer fully human. But the transformation isn't complete, Athena continued, watching your agony with detached interest. Beauty can exist even in monstrous forms. I must ensure no. One ever again looks upon you with desire, her gray eyes locked with yours, and you realize too late what she intended. By the time you thought to look away, it was already done. Power surged from her gaze into yours, filling your eyes with terrible energy, with divine vengeance. It burned behind your vision, a perpetual fire that could never be quenched. From this day forward, Athena pronounced, any who meet your gaze directly will be turned to stone. Your beauty, which once inspired admiration, will now inspire only terror. Those who look upon you will be frozen forever in that moment of horror, transformed to lifeless stone by the power of your curse. You stared at her, this goddess you had served faithfully for most of your life, unable to comprehend the magnitude of her cruelty. Why, you whispered, why punish me this way? I was loyal to you. I was violated against my will. For just a moment, something like regret flickered across her divine features. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask of divine justice. Because, she said simply, you were the one who was here. Poseidon is beyond my reach. His domain is the sea, his power equal to mine. But you are mortal, accessible, a visible reminder to all of what happens when my temple is defiled. She turned away, her radiance already beginning to fade as she prepared to depart. Leave Athens before nightfall, she commanded. If you are found within the city limits by dawn, I will not prevent the people from destroying you as the monster you now are. Where am I to go, you asked, your voice hollow with despair. She shrugged, already half gone from the mortal realm. That is no longer my concern. You are no longer my concern. And then she was gone, leaving you alone in the courtyard where your life had been destroyed twice in a single day. You did not dare return to the priestess's quarters to gather your few possessions, did not dare risk encountering your former sisters with your new monstrous form. Instead, you tore a length of fabric from a decorative wall hanging to create a hooded cloak, keeping your head down, your hideous face and serpentine hair concealed, as best you could. Then you fled, out the small side gate, through back alleys, beyond the city walls as the sun was setting, casting long shadows that helped hide your desperate flight. Where could you go? Not back to your fishing village. You would bring only horror and death to your aging parents. Not to another city. The same fate would await you there. You needed isolation, wilderness, a place where you could harm no one with your cursed gaze. You found it, eventually, a cave on a rocky island far from shipping lanes, accessible only by a treacherous path up a cliff face, a place where no one would stumble upon you accidentally, a place where you could exist, if not live, in solitary safety. The years passed. How many, you're not certain. Time loses meaning in isolation. The snakes that were once your hair became, strangely, your only companions. They have personalities, you've discovered, moods, preferences. Some are aggressive, always ready to strike. Others are almost gentle, curling around your fingers affectionately when you stroke their scales. You've learned to hunt at night, to avoid accidentally meeting the eyes of any living thing. Rabbits, birds, fish, caught in tidal pools. These make up your diet. You drink rainwater collected in natural stone basins. You sleep on a bed of dried seaweed and grasses. It is not living. It is existing, surviving. Sometimes, in your darkest moments, you wonder if Athena's curse included immortality. If you are doomed to exist like this, not for decades, but for centuries, forever, the thought is almost too terrible to bear. And there are visitors occasionally, sailors blown off course by storms, adventurers seeking to make their name by slaying a famous monster, curious fools drawn by rumors of a cave where stone statues stand in poses of terror. Yes, stone statues. Because despite your caution, despite your isolation, sometimes people see your face, meet your eyes, and become immortalized in their final moment of horror. You don't mean to kill them. You try to warn them away with hissed threats from the darkness of your cave. Try to hide your face when you hear approaching footsteps. But some are persistent. Some think themselves heroes. The fisherman who stumbled upon your cave while seeking shelter from a storm. The young shepherd boy who was exploring the coastline with his flock. The merchant whose ship wrecked on the rocks below. The old woman gathering rare herbs that grow only on seaside cliffs. All stone now, all standing in your cave like silent accusers, their frozen expressions a perpetual reminder of your cursed nature. You've considered ending it, finding a reflective surface, a still pool, a polished shield, and meeting your own gaze. Would you turn yourself to stone, or is your curse designed only to affect others? You've never been brave enough to find out. And then one day, you hear a new sound outside your cave, not the cautious step of an explorer or the panicked stumbling of someone lost. This is purposeful, measured, the sound of someone who knows exactly where they're going and what they'll find when they arrive. You retreat to the deepest part of your cave, pulling your tattered hood low over your face, willing the serpents on your head to be still, to make no betraying sound. He enters like a shaft of sunlight, young, strong, beautiful in the way of heroes. His bronze armor gleams even in the cave's dim light. His sword is already drawn. On his arm is a polished shield that reflects the cave's interior in disorienting flashes. You know immediately who he is, what he is. A hero sent to slay the monster, to take your head as a trophy, to make his name immortal through your death. Come out, Medusa, he calls, his voice echoing in the stone chamber. Face me honorably, if there remains anything honorable in your cursed existence. You say nothing. Perhaps if you're silent, he'll think the cave empty, move on to seek his glory elsewhere. But he advances further, stepping carefully around the stone figures of your accidental victims. I am Perseus, he announces, son of Zeus, favored by Athena. I have come to end your reign of terror, as if you ruled anything but this lonely cave, as if you had chosen to curse and kill. Leave, you finally respond, your voice raspy from disuse. There is no glory in killing one who does not wish to harm you. He laughs, the sound bright and terrible in your dark home. The monster speaks and claims to mean no harm while surrounded by her stone victims. They came uninvited, you say, as you have. Leave now while you still can. Instead of retreating, he advances further, seeming to follow the sound of your voice, but strangely his eyes are shut. I do not need to see you directly, he explains, sensing your confusion. Athena has blessed me with guidance. And this, he raises the polished shield, angling it before him, will show me your reflection. Even your cursed gaze cannot turn a reflection to stone. Clever, divinely inspired, no doubt. Athena, who cursed you, now aids this hero in destroying you. The goddess's vengeance, it seems, is not satisfied by decades of your suffering. Why? You ask, backing away as he advances. Why does my death matter to you? I harm no one who leaves me in peace. Because you are a monster, he says simply. Because your head holds power that can be used for good in the right hands. Because the gods have decreed it, of course. The gods. Always the gods, moving mortals like pieces on a game board, indifferent to the pain they cause. And if I told you it was Athena who made me this way, you ask desperately. That I was her priestess, violated by Poseidon in her temple, then punished by the very goddess I served faithfully? He hesitates, just for a moment. I would say you lie to save yourself. Look around you. You gesture to the stone figures, though he cannot see with his eyes closed. Do these look like the victims of someone who hunted them? They are fishermen, shepherds, lost travelers, people who stumbled upon my home by accident, whom I tried to warn away. Enough talk, he says. But there's a new tension in his voice. Doubt, perhaps. The gods have judged you. I am merely their instrument. As was I, you reply bitterly. Their instrument, their pawn, their victim. He's close now, guided by the reflection in his shield, his sword raised for the killing blow. You could run, deeper into the cave system, perhaps, where darkness might hide you. But to what end? To prolong this cursed existence? To continue killing accidentally, turning innocent wanderers to stone despite your best efforts? Perhaps it's better this way. Perhaps death will be a release. You straighten up, push back your hood, let the serpents on your head rise and hiss their defiance. Do it then, you say quietly. Complete Athena's vengeance. But know this, hero, you serve a goddess who punishes the victims of violence rather than its perpetrators, who uses mortal suffering as a pawn in her divine games. Remember that when they tell stories of your glorious deed, his face visible. To you, though, yours is hidden from his direct gaze by the angle of his shield, shows conflict, doubt. For a moment, you think he might lower his sword, might listen. Then his expression hardens. He lunges forward, sword swinging in a glittering arc. The pain is brief, intense, then gone. Your head, separated from your body, falls to the cave floor. But strangely, you remain conscious, aware. The curse, it seems, ensures that even death is not a complete escape. You see through rapidly dimming eyes as Perseus carefully wraps your severed head in a special bag, avoiding your gaze even in death. You feel the serpents that were your hair still writhing, still alive, despite your body's death. Your curse continues, your power remains. But now it will be used by the hero, by Athena's champion, to turn his enemies to stone, to serve the very goddess who condemned you, the final indignity, the final injustice. As your consciousness fades, your last thought is a bitter one. They will tell this story for generations. They will praise Perseus's bravery. They will speak of the monster, vanquished, the threat removed, but no one will remember the priestess, the victim, the woman who was punished for being beautiful in the wrong place, at the wrong time, in the sight of gods too proud and petty to administer true justice. No one will speak of how Athena betrayed her most faithful servant. No one will question why Poseidon went unpunished for his crime. No one will wonder if perhaps the monster was never really you at all, but the divine beings who treated mortal lives as disposable entertainment. They call you a monster, but you didn't choose this. Hero came to slay you. He didn't ask your name, and the gods cheered. Chapter 4. Actaeon, the Hunted. You are Actaeon, and you have always loved the hunt. Since childhood you've found peace in forests that terrify others, where some see only shadow and danger lurking between ancient trunks. You see sanctuary. The whisper of wind through leaves speaks to you more clearly than human voices ever could. The patterns of animal tracks tell stories more compelling than any poet's verses. You were born to nobility, grandson of King Cadmus of Thebes, son of minor royalty, raised in comfort, if not extravagance. You could have been a politician, a merchant, a scholar. Your parents certainly hoped for such respectable pursuits. Instead, you became the finest hunter in all of Boeotia. It wasn't a decision so much as a recognition of what you had always been. The first time your nurse lost track of you, she found the 3-year-old you following deer tracks at the edge of the palace grounds. By 7, you could identify every bird by its call alone. By 12, you could bring down a stag with a single arrow. By 16, kings from neighboring regions would request your services when particularly dangerous beasts threatened their lands. Now, at 25, your reputation is unmatched. Your skill with bow and spear is legendary. Your pack of hunting hounds, 50 magnificent beasts, each trained personally by you since they were pups, is the envy of hunters across Greece. You love those dogs with a devotion that puzzles your friends. Each has a name, a personality, quirks you know intimately. Blackfoot, with his distinctive paw and uncanny tracking ability. Swift Lycissa, first to give voice when prey is spotted. Powerful Melampus, whose jaws can bring down a full-grown boar. Loyal Ichnobates, never more than a few paces from your side. They are not just tools of the hunt to you, they are companions. Family, in a way, your blood relations have never quite managed to be. Today's hunt began at dawn, you and 7 companions, all experienced hunters, though none your equal, plus your beloved hounds. You're tracking a massive stag reported in the foothills of Mount Cithaeron, a creature of unusual size and cunning that has eluded less skilled hunting parties for months. The summer heat is brutal by midday. The sun beats down through gaps in the forest canopy, sweat soaks your tunic, and your water skin is nearly empty. Even your tireless hounds are panting heavily, their pace slowing as the day wears on. We should rest, suggests Hylaios, your cousin and frequent hunting companion. The stag's trail leads uphill toward rougher terrain. Better to resume when the worst heat has passed. You agree reluctantly. The hunter in you hates to interrupt the chase, but wisdom dictates conservation of strength. We'll find a suitable place to rest, you decide. Somewhere with water, if possible. The dogs lead you to a stream, not the main river, but a smaller tributary flowing through a narrow valley dense with ancient oaks and towering pines. The water is cool and clear, bubbling over smooth stones. Perfect. Your companions flop gratefully in the shade, passing around bread and dried meat from their packs. The dogs lap eagerly at the stream, then find comfortable spots in the dappled shade to rest. But you are restless. The stag is close, you can feel it. After drinking your fill and splashing water on your face and neck, you stand. I'm going. To scout ahead, you tell the others. Just up the valley a bit. The stag might have stopped to rest in this heat as well. Hylaios frowns. Alone? At least take some of the dogs. You shake your head. They need rest, and I'll move more quietly. Without them, I won't be long. Before anyone can object further, you're moving upstream, bow in hand, quiver secure at your hip. The familiar weight of your hunting knife against your thigh is reassuring as you pick your way carefully between stones, making almost no sound despite the uneven terrain. The valley narrows as you progress, the slopes on either side growing steeper. The stream beside you seems to grow fuller, faster, fed by unseen springs. The trees cluster more thickly here, creating a green twilight even at midday. Moss covers everything, stones, fallen logs, the north sides of tree trunks, giving the forest an ancient, enchanted quality. You realize you've never hunted in this specific part of the mountain before. For all your explorations of Cithaeron's extensive wilderness, this particular valley is new to you. Strange, given how thoroughly you've covered the region over the years. The sound of the stream changes ahead, becoming more musical, splashing rather than burbling. A waterfall, perhaps? You move forward eagerly, thinking it would be an ideal place for a weary stag to drink. The trees open suddenly into a clearing, dominated by a pool of water so clear it appears bottomless. A small waterfall, no more than twice your height, cascades into it from a rock face draped with ferns and flowering vines. The sun strikes the falling water, creating a permanent rainbow that hovers like a blessing over the scene. It's beautiful, unnaturally beautiful. A corner of your mind whispers, too perfect to be mere wilderness. But your attention is caught by movement on the far side of the pool, a flash of white between trees that might be the haunch of your elusive stag. You freeze, barely breathing, bow half raised, waiting for another glimpse. Instead, you hear voices, female voices, light and musical, accompanied by splashing. Not your stag then. Not unless the creature has suddenly learned to speak and laugh. Lowering your bow, you step back, intending to retreat quietly. You have no interest in disturbing local women who've come to bathe in the secluded pool. That would be ungentlemanly, not to mention potentially dangerous if they're from a nearby village. Country fathers and brothers tend to react poorly to strangers stumbling upon their bathing womenfolk. But as you shift your weight to turn, your foot dislodges a stone. It clatters down the slight incline, making far more noise than seems reasonable for its size, and lands with a distinctive plop in the pool's edge. The voices stop abruptly. "Who's there?" calls one, her tone imperious rather than frightened. "Show yourself." Something about that voice freezes you in place. It resonates with a quality you can't quite identify, like the harmonic hum of a perfectly made bowstring when plucked. It's not a normal human voice, which means, oh no, understanding crashes over you like icy water, the unnatural perfection of the clearing, the strange sense that this valley was somehow hidden despite your years of exploring these mountains, the commanding tone of the unseen speaker. This is a sacred grove, a bathing place of nymphs perhaps, or even, I said, show yourself, mortal. I can sense your presence. Definitely not nymphs. Nymphs don't address humans so directly, so commandingly. This is a goddess, and not just any goddess, given the location, the hunting grounds, the affinity for wilderness. Artemis, virgin goddess of the hunt, protector of young women, twin sister of Apollo, daughter of Zeus himself. Known for her beauty, her skill with bow and arrow, and her absolute unforgiving intolerance for men who violate her privacy. If you run now, she'll know. Goddesses aren't limited by human senses. She's already aware of your presence. Running would be an admission of guilt, an acknowledgement that you were spying deliberately rather than stumbling upon her accidentally. Your only hope is honesty and immediate abject apology. Swallowing hard, you step forward into the clearing, keeping your eyes fixed firmly on the ground before your feet. Forgive me, great goddess, you say, voice steady, despite your racing heart. I am Actaeon, grandson of Cadmus. I was tracking a stag and had no idea this was your sacred place. I meant no intrusion or disrespect. Silence greets your words, tense, expectant silence that seems to hum with dangerous energy. Look at me, hunter, comes the command, that same resonant voice that is beautiful and terrible all at once. You hesitate. To look directly at a goddess in her divine form is dangerous for mortals, sometimes fatal. But to disobey a direct command from a deity is certainly fatal. You have no choice. Slowly, reluctantly, you raise your eyes. She stands waist-deep in the crystal pool, surrounded by attendants, nymphs, you realize, who are now hurriedly attempting to shield their mistress with lengths of shimmering fabric. But they're too slow. Too late, you see her, Artemis unclothed, fresh from bathing. Her skin gleams like polished ivory in the dappled sunlight. Her hair, normally bound for the hunt, falls loose around her shoulders, darker than midnight, gleaming, with droplets that might be water or liquid silver. Her face is beautiful beyond mortal comprehension, features perfectly proportioned, yet alien in their flawlessness, too symmetrical, too radiant for human bone and flesh. And her eyes lock with yours, silver as the moon she governs, cold as the space between stars. There is no mercy in those eyes, no forgiveness, only the absolute certainty of divine judgment. Her fury manifests as a palpable force. The air around you grows dense, charged with divine wrath. You cannot breathe, cannot move, cannot even think of fleeing. Actaeon, grandson of Cadmus, she says, her voice somehow both whisper and thunder. You claim accident, yet here you stand, eyes upon my sacred form which no man may witness and live. The nymphs hiss and murmur, their beautiful faces contorted with disgust and outrage. Some cover their eyes as if the sight of your impending punishment might be too terrible to witness. Great Artemis, you manage, your voice a rasp. I swear upon the river Styx, I meant no... Silence. The single word crashes against you like a physical blow. I care nothing for your intentions. The outcome is the same. You have seen what is forbidden, and all actions have consequences. She raises one dripping hand from the pool. Water streams from her fingertips, but the droplets hang suspended in the air, transforming from clear liquid to something luminous and terrible. You claim to be a hunter, Actaeon, the finest in Boeotia, they say. Her smile is cold as moonlight on snow. Let us test how well you fare as the hunted. The suspended droplets fly toward you, striking your face, your chest, your outstretched hands. Each impact burns like molten metal, and you cry out, falling to your knees as agony courses through your body. Your bones crack and reshape. Your skin prickles, then erupts in coarse hair. Your face stretches painfully forward, nose and mouth fusing into a muzzle. Your scream of pain transforms midway into a bellowing roar. Go now, Artemis commands, terrible in her divine wrath. Run if you can, hide if you may, but know this. What was yours will become your undoing. Terror overwhelms you. Not just the mortal fear of divine punishment, but a new primal panic that floods your transformed body. You bolt from the clearing, crashing through underbrush, adjusting awkwardly. To 4 legs, where once there were 2, you are a stag now, the very creature you had been hunting. Your human mind remains intact within this alien form, aware enough to comprehend the horror of your situation, but unable to communicate it. You try to speak, to beg forgiveness, but only strangled animal sounds emerge from your throat. Disoriented, you stumble down the valley toward where you left your companions and hounds. Perhaps they can help somehow. Perhaps Hylios will recognize something in your eyes, some spark of humanity despite your bestial form. It's a desperate hope, but the only one remaining to you. You break through the trees to the spot where your hunting party rested. They're standing now, alert, weapons ready. Your absence has clearly concerned them. The dogs pace restlessly, picking up your trail, but not recognizing it as yours. There, shouts one of your companions, pointing directly at you. The stag. No, you try to say. It's me. It's Actaeon, but they cannot hear the words locked behind your animal cries. To them you are merely the magnificent prey they've spent all day tracking. Where's Actaeon? Asks another hunter, looking around. He should be here for this kill. No time to wait, says Hylios, nocking an arrow. The stag might bolt again. We may not get another chance this clean. You shake your massive antlered head, frantically backing away. This cannot be happening. These are your friends, your kinsmen. You've hunted alongside them for years, but in your new form you are unrecognizable to them. Worse, you realize with dawning horror, you are unrecognizable to your hounds as well. Blackfoot is the first to catch your scent, his distinctive paw leaving marks in the soft earth as he approaches, hackles raised. His familiar eyes, once filled with devotion when they looked upon you, now show only the focused intensity of a predator who has found his prey. You remember training him from a pup. Remember how he would curl against your side during cold nights in hunting camps. Remember the pride in his bearing when you praised him for a successful track. Now he snarls at you, teeth bared, a stranger. Hounds to me, calls Hylios, and the pack responds instantly, the discipline you instilled in them working against you as they form a loose circle, cutting off your escape routes. Swift Lysis gives voice first, her distinctive bay signaling the others. Powerful Melampus lunges forward, testing your defenses. Loyal Ichnobates moves to your left flank, ready to turn you if you bolt. You know their tactics because you taught them. You know exactly how they will bring you down because you trained them in the art of the kill. Your own expertise becomes your doom. For one frozen moment, you stand motionless, surrounded by your beloved hounds and trusted companions, all poised to destroy you. In Hylios's eyes, you see only the triumphant gleam of a hunter about to make a legendary kill. In the dog's eyes, you see only hunger and purpose. Artemis's words echo in your mind. What was yours will become your undoing. The first arrow whistles past your ear, a warning shot meant to startle you into running so the dogs can give chase. It's the traditional start to the final phase of a hunt. You've used this same technique countless times. Now it will be used on you. You run. What choice do you have? Animal instinct overrides human thought, and your powerful new legs carry you bounding through the forest with incredible speed. For a brief, wild moment, there's an exhilarating freedom in your flight, the raw power of your stag's body, the way you clear fallen logs in graceful leaps, the intimate knowledge of the terrain that might yet save you. But the baying of the hounds behind you shatters any illusion of escape. They're gaining, Of course they're gaining. They're the finest hunting pack in all of Greece, trained by you personally to never lose a trail, never abandon a chase, never show mercy to their quarry. You change direction, cutting sharply across a stream to throw off your scent. It's a tactic you've used yourself when tracking particularly cunning prey. It might buy you moments, nothing more. The stream reminds you of Artemis's pool, of the moment your fate was sealed. Was there anything you could have done differently? Closed your eyes before looking up? Prostrated yourself immediately? Or was this punishment inevitable from the moment you set foot in her sacred valley? No time for such thoughts now. The hounds have picked up your trail again, their voices harmonizing in that familiar chorus that has always thrilled your hunter's heart. Now it fills you with dread. Your stag's body is tiring. Powerful as it is, the heat of the day and the terror of the chase are taking their toll. Your breath comes in ragged gasps. Foam flecks your muzzle. Your legs, so sure before, begin to tremble with each impact. When you stumble, it happens suddenly, a hidden root, a moment's inattention. You crash heavily to the ground, massive antlers tangling briefly in low branches before you can struggle upright again. But it's too late. The moment's delay is all the hounds need. Blackfoot reaches you first, latching onto your hind leg with crushing jaws. The pain is blinding. You kick frantically, dislodging him, but Melampus is there instantly, clamping down on your other flank. One by one they converge, dogs you raised, fed, trained, loved, tearing at your flesh with single-minded determination. You thrash violently, your antlers connecting with soft bodies, buying seconds of reprieve. But there are too many, 50 against 1. The outcome is inevitable. As teeth find your throat, as your lifeblood spills onto the forest floor, your fading human consciousness forms one final coherent thought. This is how it feels to be the hunted. Your human companions arrive moments later, excited by the successful kill, disappointed only that their leader missed the triumphant conclusion of their day-long hunt. A shame Actaeon wasn't here to see this, says Hylaios, examining your magnificent antlers with admiration. He would have appreciated such a clean takedown. He pats Blackfoot's head affectionately. The dog's muzzle is stained with your blood, yet he leans into the touch, already forgetting the kill in the pleasure of praise. None of them notice the human understanding still flickering in your dying eyes. None of them hear your final silent plea as darkness claims you. In death, at least, you find a strange peace, the peace of the forest that has always called to you, now welcoming you into eternal silence. Later, they will search for you. Later, they will tell stories of the hunter who vanished on Mount Cithaeron. Later, legends will form around your disappearance, some coming remarkably close to the truth. But they will never find you. For all that remains is a stag's carcass, already being prepared for transport back to Thebes as a trophy, and somewhere on Olympus a goddess watches, her divine justice served, her sacred privacy preserved through your example, a warning to all mortals who would dare to look upon the forbidden. You have heard them now, 4 souls caught in the merciless gaze of divinity. Actaeon, the hunter who saw too much, torn apart by the very hounds he loved, his human consciousness trapped inside a stag's dying body, all for one accidental glance at forbidden beauty, Medusa, once beautiful herself, transformed into a monster, not for her own sins, but for being desirable to a god. Her punishment for being victimized, a face that turns men to stone, eternal isolation, and ultimately her severed head used as a weapon by a so-called hero, Icarus, whose only crime was the intoxication of freedom, soaring too close to the sun on borrowed wings. His exhilaration turned to terror as wax melted and feathers scattered, his fall as spectacular as his brief, magnificent flight. Sisyphus, who thought himself clever enough to cheat death, now forever pushing his boulder up a hill only to watch. It roll back down, eternal labor without purpose, endless striving without achievement, the perfect metaphor for God's view of mortal ambition. 4 mortals. 4 threads cut short or twisted by immortal hands. Each one a different lesson in the same ancient truth. To be noticed by gods is rarely a blessing. Yet, here you are, still listening, still fascinated by their suffering. Perhaps that makes you a little like those Olympians, finding entertainment in another's tragedy, comfort in knowing such spectacular downfalls are not your own. Or perhaps you recognize yourself in these tales. The hunter pursuing what cannot be captured. The woman punished for beauty she never asked to possess. The youth intoxicated by forbidden heights. The trickster whose cleverness becomes a cage. Perhaps some part of you knows what it means to reach beyond your station and feel the burn of divine rebuke. The gods of old may no longer walk among us, or so we tell ourselves in this age of reason and science. Yet hubris still precedes catastrophe. Beauty still invites envy. Curiosity still leads to precipitous falls. Ambition still reveals itself as folly. The ancient Greeks knew something we struggle to remember. We are small in a vast universe, subject to forces beyond our comprehension or control. Our lives can shatter in an instant, not from divine caprice, but from the equally indifferent hand of fate. So what wisdom can we salvage from these broken lives, these cautionary tales? Perhaps simply this: you are mortal. That's not a mistake. It's the very essence of your beauty. Your temporary nature makes each breath precious. Your vulnerability makes your courage remarkable. Your finite days make your loves and works and dreams burn all the brighter against the darkness. The gods, if they existed as the ancients imagined, might have been powerful beyond measure, but they were never fully alive the way you are. Never felt the sweet urgency of limited time. Never knew the poignancy of what can be lost. Never experienced the quiet heroism of continuing despite certain death. So go forward into your brief, magnificent life. Look upon beauty, even if it's forbidden. Fly toward the sun, even if your wings might melt. Challenge the existing order, even if eternal punishment threatens. Hunt your purpose in dark forests, even if what you seek might destroy you. But as you do, whisper a small prayer of gratitude that the gods are no longer watching, or, if they are, that they've grown kinder with age. And when night falls, and you find yourself alone with ancient starlight, remember these mortals whose stories outlived their bodies. Remember that we are all, in our way, myths in the making. Then, close your eyes and dream without fear, for now.